Gingerbread Children, a book published in 2018 by Carol Carman. Got rave reviews, Carol. Some of them, little paraphrases from some of these reviews. Thoroughly enjoyed falling into another world. That's what someone said. Carol's style may be unique. Every part and every page is full of delights. Funny wordplay, descriptive scenes, all perfectly set. A story that flowed along. Beautiful, isn't it? And you've written another book called Twicetime. Is it a sequel, a follow-up to that first one?
It's not quite a sequel, if you like, but it's all set in the same world, John. So if you imagine it's set in the same town, in the same time period. So it's got very much a feel of the first book, but it's got an entirely different cast of characters to it.
New characters. So where have these characters come from? Give us a synopsis, an idea of what we can find.
Well, what you can find in the book, there's most of it takes place in a castle. So if you imagine the old Frankenstein-type films, where there's a big, grey, doom-laden castle and there's a laboratory down at the bottom or whatever, and it's got that kind of feel to it, but very much a comedy book as well.
Because a lot of people do liken you to Terry Pratchett. Have you gone a bit Mary Shelley-ish this time as well, then?
Well, think of it as Terry Pratchett with Mary Shelley overtones. I think that's the easiest way to describe it, John.
And where do the ideas come from?
Funnily enough, this one came from Mary Shelley, because what I like to do, and what I did with Gingerbread Children was a look at the other side of the Hansel and Gretel story. And this is, if you like, it takes the Mary Shelley legend and just goes off in a different direction with it. And because people think they already know the story, you've got so much to work with already, and it's an absolute joy to look at things from a different angle that nobody's looked at them before.
And are these characters found in your everyday life? Do you bump into some of these people and make extensions of their characters for some of them?
Oh, I'm sure there's a bit of a few people that I know that's in some of the characters. I'll say no more than that. But I don't very often bump into aristocracy, so the residents of the castle, perhaps not.
Do they know that they're in these books, possibly? Some traits?
Oh, I do hope not. I don't know what they'll do if they ever find out they are.
Yeah. And how are you as a writer? Disciplined?
I don't necessarily need to be disciplined, John, because I enjoy it so much. And what happens is that, about like sportsmen talk about getting in the zone, and you've got to be in people use fancy words like you've got to be in the right headspace and things like that. Well, if I'm deep in the story, I just lose myself in it. And if it's going well, you have to drag me away from the computer, literally, to get meals. Because otherwise I would just sit there all day if it's going well. If it's not going so well, I'll be getting up and pottering about and having a walk up and down to see if the bit of exercise can jog something in my memory and try and unblock the blockage, as it were.
You said about missing meals. That rings a bell with me, because when my wife got your first book, Gingerbread Children, this is God's honest truth, I got no meals. She cooks for me. It's not a sexist thing, but the way we work it, she cooks all the meals mainly. But she didn't cook the meals for 5 or 6 days because she was so wound up with Gingerbread Children and couldn't put it down. Apologies.
I'm very sorry about that, John. And perhaps you need to get some ready meals in for the next few weeks once it's published, in case she does it again.
And this new book, Twicetime, for a start, the title, where does that come from?
Now that's a word that I made up because, if you like, it's the thing that somebody uses to generate something. I can't say very much more than that, but you will find that this thing is absolutely vital in the story.
And then the original published date, am I wrong or right on this, was quite unique with that title, wasn't it?
We actually sort of, if you like, pre-published it, so made it available to order on the 2nd of the 2nd, 2022. So it was all the twos, which just fitted in beautifully with Twicetime.
And your writing, someone mentioned it's unique in a way and very descriptive, and people say they can immerse themselves in the story and they feel they're there. Where does that come from, the art of writing so descriptively?
I don't really know, John. What I tend to do is I almost see it as though it's playing out as a film in my head. And so I like to describe it as much as I can so that people are able to see what I was seeing in my head. And the beauty of writing something is that you can just write reams and reams and reams of stuff and describe it as much as you like. And then you can start paring things out and cutting things out and cutting it down. And almost, it's a bit like, I don't know, wood turning, something like that, or sculpting. You've got this massive stuff, and then what you want to do is just pare it down until you've got it just as you want it, and then you polish it a bit and polish it a bit and hold it up in certain lights. And it's a bit the same as that with words.
And do you know when you write these books how they're going to end? Or do you start from the end and work backwards, or do you start at the beginning and not know in your mind where it's going to go yourself even?
I have a vague idea of what I want to do and where the story starts and ends. But the middle is a complete, well, not a complete mystery, but it's a very much of a mystery because sometimes before I actually started writing, I used to hear writers say, oh, the characters just do what they want. And then once I did start writing, I found, yes, the characters do what they want. And you get these ideas just popping into your head and go, well, yes, of course that character would do that. So I have a very sketchy outline of where it wants to go. And then what I do is I start writing the bits that I like. So if I get an idea for a scene, I'll write that scene and then I'll put it away in a ring binder and then think, right, how did those characters get to that place where they're in that scene and what happens afterwards? So then that's given me, if you like, a couple of spurs to write something else.
Is it a long process for you?
It can be, yes. Yes, it is. I mean, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the physical act of just typing it all in, yes.
And refining it.
And refining it and refining it and refining it, yes. I mean, in effect, this should have been published a couple of years ago, but various things intervened. So, but I'm glad it's out now, put it that way.
And another person that read it said to me that somebody is very skillful who can make you laugh out loud by reading a written word on a page, and within 5 minutes you're then sobbing. So you combine both elements, but to actually do that is some skill.
Well, that's very kind of whoever said that. And that is the aim of the writer, is to get your readers so enthralled in the story that they think they're actually there. And if I can do that, that's absolutely fabulous. And I thank that person very much.
And if anyone wants to get hold of a copy of this new book, Carol, what's the best way to get it?
The best way to get it is to go to, you can pre-order it now from the website mccawmedia.co.uk, and that's MCCAW media, MEDIA.co.uk, mccawmedia.co.uk.
And I just asked you did mention you can see this as a film in your head.
Yes.
Other people have said to me, these books would transfer very well onto the big screen or even the small screen. Is that something that would interest you?
Oh, I would love that. I mean, which writer wouldn't love that? So if you do know anybody, John, please push a book in their direction, will you? No, genuinely, because I can see it in my head as a film, I could actually visualise it on a screen somewhere. And I think they would make, and it sounds like bragging, but I think they would make really good British films because they've got that element of British humour running through them.
And who are the authors that you enjoy and have inspired you, think?
Well, yes, I do love Terry Pratchett. I will read Terry Pratchett until the cows come home as well. But also, completely away from the world of fiction, I do love Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson is an absolute master at writing because I have sat and I have laughed until tears ran down my face reading Bill Bryson things. And he says things, he's so dry, but he's not long-winded about it either. And he just has this quality about his writing that just cuts right through things.
So, Carol, give us a short synopsis. What is the book actually all about?
Well, let me read you this, John. I'll read you this from the back of the book. Building a bodyguard to kill your aristocratic niece's vengeful ex-husband should be easy for a witch. All you need is the right body and the right magic, and soon you have a mindless killer to do your bidding. But of course, It does all depend on what the butler brings back from the cemetery. For Francis Stein, reanimating the dead is one thing. Convincing the corpse there's life after death is another. And finding out he's neither mindless nor killer is something else entirely. Especially when he's a last hope, because they both have a limited lifespan, and time is literally running out.